Howdy y'all, and welcome to Episode 7 of the Barnyard Banter Podcast, where boots meet microphones and agriculture takes center stage.
We're your hosts, Peyton Roberts
and Riley Rinke. We're members of the Axel FFA chapter, and we're on a mission to bring the ag industry to life. One story, one laugh, and one barnyard tale at a time.
Each episode, we'll be chatting with farmers, ranchers, ag teachers, FFA members, and industry experts out there making a difference in the world of agriculture.
Whether you're hauling hay, feeding calves, planting crops, or simply just curious about where your food comes from, this podcast is for you.
So sit back, grab a sweet tea, or hop on the tractor as we take a dive into the wild, wonderful, and sometimes downright muddy world of agriculture. Welcome to Barnyard Banter.
First off, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for joining us today as we take a look into a fan favorite organization in Texas agriculture. Alright, Peyton, it's time for our favorite thing, trivia. So the question today is, do you know what the largest farm organization is?
Obviously, Riley, it's Texas Farm Bureau, which is why I'm so excited to introduce one of Texas Farm Bureau's own, Mckenna Bush. Today's guest is Mckenna Bush. She serves as the Youth Outreach Coordinator in the Organization Division. In this role, Bush is responsible for the development and execution of Texas Farm Bureau youth and collegiate programs. She is also responsible for the organization's relationship with Texas FFA, Texas 4-H, and Texas FCCLA. She earned her undergraduate degree from Texas A&M in Agricultural Communications and Journalism and Agricultural Leadership and Development. She also holds her master's degree in agricultural leadership, education, and communications, also from Texas A&M. Thank you, Mckenna, for being here today.
Absolutely, and thank you, Peyton and Riley, for having me today. My role at Texas Farm Bureau, like you shared, I oversee our youth and collegiate programs, and what that entails is overseeing our Student Success Series, which covers 8th through 12th grade, our Agricultural Mechanics Grant, and our Clover Cash Grant programs, which we can talk a little bit more about as we dive into things. Our scholarship program at the state level, Speak Out for Agriculture, otherwise known as SOFA Challenge, and Collegiate Farm Bureau. And so, in a nutshell, I like to say I work with 8th grade through collegiate students and really like to think of my program area as part of a pipeline for folks to be involved in Farm Bureau.
That's really cool. So how did you initially get involved in agriculture? Were you involved in FFA or 4-H when you were younger, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I do not come from a production background. Probably the closest I get to it is my grandpa did custom swathing and baling, and then my stepfather now, which I can't lay any claim to the operation because they got married after I was already in college, but my stepdad and my mom run a cow-calf operation and dry land row crop operation in Memphis, Texas. So shout out to the Panhandle. But coming from the Panhandle, I graduated from Canyon High School, and so was certainly surrounded by agriculture, as that is a super abundant area for that industry in the state of Texas. And I really got my start in FFA and a little bit in 4-H as well. I was a part of Armstrong and Randall County 4-H programs. I spent a little bit of middle school and early high school in Claude, where my mom is originally from, before moving to Canyon. And if you had have talked to me when I was in 8th grade, I would have told you that I was going to be a pediatric pulmonologist and cardiothoracic surgeon. Yeah, crazy. And so most of my family is in the medical field. My mom's a social worker. My father is a family nurse practitioner. And so really grew up around that. And I also had health problems. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. And then I realized what that meant to go to school for so long, do residency, fellowship, all of that. And then I always knew growing up that I wanted to be an FFA because I'm the oldest sibling, but I had friends who had siblings who were older than us, and of course saw them in the blue jacket and wanted to join FFA. Didn't even know much about it. Was just like, I want to do what they do. And so when the opportunity came, when I entered into my freshman year, I joined Principles of Ag, Food and Natural Resources class, and got my start in FFA. And around my junior year, I would say, when, you start really thinking about what you want to do, what you want to major in, my ag science teachers really encouraged me to think about ag communications because I'm a yapper. And like I mentioned before we started recording, my SAE was a podcast and a blog. And so I obviously really enjoyed that area of agriculture and wanted to help be the voice of agriculture, which ironically is Farm Bureau's mission. And so that's kind of how I transitioned away from medical field and into pursuing agriculture.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So
Crazy how you can switch from one thing to the other.
yeah, that's kind of like how I was. Like, I had planned to go into the medical field, and then like as time went on and I was in ag, I was like, oh, this is for me. Yeah, so you said you were involved in FFA and that your SAE was a podcast, but did you do any other events during your time in high school? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I did Green Hand chapter conducting and junior creed speaking my freshman year. And then when I moved to Canyon, that was at Claude. I moved to Canyon. I just did senior creed speaking my sophomore year. We were like in a transitional period within the organization, and so I didn't do a whole lot. And then I was also like the new kid at a bigger school. And then junior year, I did senior creed, PR, and started doing milk quality for my CDE and ag communications. And then I would throw in like a random meets contest or, like a wool when they're like, hey, we needed a fourth person, go. And you're like, okay, I'll go. And so I did that a couple of times. And then my senior year, I did PR, senior creed, milk quality, ag com. And then I was also a Ford Leadership Scholar my senior year. And so did my service project, all of that good stuff as well.
What was your service project over?
Yeah, so it's called Ag Communicators for Tomorrow, or ACT, and it was really meant to bridge the gap between fourth grade ag days in our district. Lots of school districts do them, or they do like a different grade level in elementary school, to bridge that experience to when we as FFA members went and spoke to eighth graders about adding ag to their schedule their freshman year. And so we saw this gap and we were like, how can we fill it? I was really fortunate to have really supportive administration at the district level, at the high schools. At the time, there were only my high school, Canyon, and Randall. Now there's 3 supportive FFA chapters, all that good stuff, and supportive intermediate schools that have the 6th graders on their campus. And what we decided to do was use actually Texas Farm Bureau's ag in the classroom curriculum matrix. I had to think of the name to make sure I got it right, to pull some lesson plans and activities and take those into the classroom. And we had mentors that were identified from both Randall and Canyon High School, and they went to their feeder intermediate school once a 6 weeks and facilitated a basically like science experiment or activity in the classroom with the educator there, for the kiddos to see a high schooler have like a little like high school mentor, kind of like what a lot of sports groups do, where they have like, big Indian, small Indian, or Wildcat, or whatever your mascot is, kind of like that type of vibe, but also showcase to the students what you're learning in science is agriculture, and here is how we can help you connect the dots through a hands-on activity. And then also for the FFA members that were serving as the mentors to have that experience themselves of advocating for agriculture, sharing what agriculture is about with that specific audience, ultimately creating a more informed consumer and hopefully a student that is interested in at least taking principles their freshman year, and then hopefully they end up loving it and they get involved in FFA, and then we have more people in agriculture. So that was my project in
that's really cool.
couple sentences.
So more on the present day side, what does a typical day look like for you working at Texas Farm Bureau?
Yes, when I saw this question, I loved it, and I thought, man, how do I answer this and make it short and sweet? Because every day is truly really different. Today, for example, I was sitting in on a webinar that American Farm Bureau did in conjunction with the Center for Food Integrity about the MAHA movement, and talking about what stakeholders are looking for in messaging, how we continue to focus on, yes, we want a safe, affordable, abundant food supply. How do we do that, and how do we ensure that it is safe for everyone, and also meet, this administration's new requirements, et cetera, being set by Secretary Kennedy. And so that was one thing that I was doing today. I was also sending emails out for a program we have coming up to students and parents, but it can also look like sitting in the car for 8 hours, driving to and from events, or being at ATAT conference, being at FFA convention. No day is truly ever the same. I will say, small plug, I have been posting a lot more on my personal Instagram at Bush Mckenna, and I've done a couple of day in the lives, and I'm planning on doing more as like these different types of events happen. So we're going to Ag Teachers Conference next week, and so we'll be trying to do one while we're there. So trying to give y'all more of an inside look of what I do on a daily basis. But yeah, the short answer is it's never the same.
So I know you're big into ag communications, but is there another field of agriculture that you lean more towards, like ag policy, animal science, plant science?
Yeah, absolutely. In high school, in college, I was really focused on policy. A lot of people were shocked when I took the position that I did with Farm Bureau, because they thought that I would want to go government affairs side, which in Farm Bureau lingo, those are the folks that are lobbyists going to Austin, going to DC, advocating for policies related to agriculture and on behalf of our membership. And folks were kind of like, I thought you would do that. And I loved policy. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to participate in Texas A&M's Ag, Food, and Natural Resource Internship Policy Program between graduating college and starting my master's program. And I interned in the House Committee on Agriculture, and it was a fantastic experience, and I recommend to anyone to take any opportunity to go to DC, go to Austin, work in a district office, which means where you live essentially, and learn more about policy and how it affects us and how you can truly impact policy. But I also learned through that experience that is not the kind of people that I want to surround myself with on a daily basis. It's a very fast-paced environment, which I could handle, but there's a lot of negativity, a lot of politics, as you can imagine, and it can be kind of frustrating to all have the same goal at the end of the day, but you're working on behalf of your constituents, and your members have opinions, etc., and you as staff are ultimately tasked with making that happen for the member, for the constituents, et cetera. And it doesn't always align with what you believe, et cetera. So it can be kind of taxing. And then it's also just long, grueling days when they're in session, et cetera. And so realized I didn't want to do policy, but I still certainly stay up to date on what's going on in that area. For example, the Malhoff webinar today, just to stay informed, because it impacts our members, and I ultimately work on behalf of our membership. And so definitely staying focused in that area. Dabble a little bit in animal science, just because I think it's interesting. And obviously at home, cow-calf operation, and then Texas being, cotton and cattle are king. You got to know a thing or two to have conversations with people, especially when they're members that do those things. But really what my focus is on now is, how do I become a better facilitator? How do I become a better educator? How do I become a better program planner? So it's not necessarily things that are focused in agriculture that I spend a lot of time learning about these days, more so than how do I apply this knowledge in agriculture in a meaningful way for our program participants, our membership, et cetera, to learn about agriculture, et cetera. So yeah.
So why do you believe that it's important to involve youth in agriculture, and how is Texas Farm Bureau helping do exactly that?
Yeah, I probably sound like a broken record, and I'm sure other people have said the same thing on this podcast, but the youth are the future. If someone hadn't have taken time to invest in me when I was young, I wouldn't be where I am today. I maybe would be a pediatric pulmonologist. I don't know. But we know less than 1% now. Back in my day, when I was y'all's age, it was 2% of the population were involved in agriculture. We're down to less than 1% now. We know that as we lose land to urbanization, developments, et cetera, which is necessary for a growing population, we're going to have to continue to do more with less land. And because there's less land, producers are going to continue to likely be forced to consolidate, and you're going to have larger operations owned by a family LLC, whatever it may be. And we need people that, if it's not their kids, it's y'all. Or other youth that are interested in continuing the legacy of providing, again, the most safe, affordable, abundant food supply in the world. And so it's really important for that, but also, if nothing else, for the youth to be informed consumers, to know that we are fortunate to have choice in America where we can choose organic, grass-fed, conventional, hydroponics, whatever it may be. And we need all of those things to be able to provide a safe, affordable food supply for the future. But if people aren't informed on what those choices really mean for them or their family, that can cause some problems. And I think we've seen that in a couple of different instances in recent history. And so I think it's twofold. I think we need people in agriculture, whether it's doing jobs like I have, it's people advocating for policy in agriculture, or if it's working on a farm or a ranch, or just being a consumer and being informed on where your food and fiber and fuel comes from. I think it's important for youth to be involved in ag because of that.
So what all events does Texas Farm Bureau hold for different students and different people looking to get more involved in agriculture or learning to gain knowledge?
Yeah, so the one I would recommend the most is Student Success Series, which, as I mentioned earlier, is our program for 8th through 12th graders. It starts with Jumpstart, which is for 8th graders. Then 9th grade can attend Activate. This year in 2025, in early fall, we're hosting those events in conjunction with one another. So 8th grade and 9th grade will be coming to one place together to go through the Jumpstart and Activate programs. They'll split for a portion of the program, but they'll also have time together, kind of like FFA convention, where you're all together for general sessions and then you can go do workshops, have area meetings, etc. Our third program in the series is Engage, and that is for 10th and 11th graders. That happens in each of our TFB districts, which are similar to your FFA areas, give or take a few counties. And that is a really great opportunity for students to get together within those TFB districts, get to know one another if they haven't already connected, and also explore an agricultural operation in their backyard, which again goes back to creating more informed consumers. And every year we have students say that they have never seen that operation or didn't know that it existed so near to where they live. And so that's always really fulfilling to see. And then our final program in Student Success Series is called Thrive. It happens in Waco at our Conference and Training Center. It's a 3-day, I like to call it like seminar type event. I always pitch it as like similar to ALC or DLC or Green Hand Camp, but definitely elevated a little bit. We're in business casual. We're on our campus, which we're really fortunate to have a beautiful campus that kind of gives intimidating, if you will, in some cases, but it's also a really great opportunity to equip those seniors to feel really confident walking into their last year of high school as they're facing all of these huge life changes, making those decisions on where they want to go to school, what they want to major in. And our goal is to equip them not only with information in agriculture, but also just information for life. And so that program for sure is kind of our hallmark program. Previously to it being called Student Success Series and spanning 8th to 12th grade, it was called Citizenship Seminar or Youth Leadership Conference. And it happened on a college campus for like 5 days. It was like a camp type vibe. And COVID happened and virtual leadership conference happened. And then through that time period, assessed and came up with, let's expand it. Let's have a series of programs that students can walk through and see where that leads us. So it's been pretty fun.
Did you ever attend any of these events during your high school or college years?
I did not attend. It would have been Youth Leadership Conference when I was in the age that could participate, and I didn't know, which is something that any organization battles, right? Is people knowing about what they do and why they do it. And I just, for whatever reason, like didn't make the connection, didn't know, etc. I did get involved once I was in college. My ag teacher had left the year after I graduated and joined staff at TFB in an education coordinator role. And he like called me up one day. He's like, "You're going to do collegiate discussion meet." And I was like, "Yes, sir. What's collegiate discussion meet?" And he was like, "You just need to fill out this registration form, like show up on this day, and you know you'll be fine." And I was like, "Okay." And of course, he probably gave me the guidelines, and I read through, and I was like, "Okay." Well, I was on a marketing team at A&M, and we had gone to competition in Kansas City, and it came back, and literally the next day was this contest. So one of my friends, who's actually an ag teacher now, Ryan Frank, in Area 3, he was so kind to like drive me to Waco from College Station, and I'm like furiously like Googling like, okay, this is one of the topics that we might discuss. Like, what do I need to know? And I'm like reading all these articles and like shoving all this information in my brain. And my boss actually now was the coordinator for YFNR, Young Farmer and Rancher, which also has collegiate discussion meet. And so that was the like first time I met him. So I'm like walking in, it's like Dr. Whit Weems is here. And he's like, what? And competed. And by the end of the day, I'd won the contest. And I like got in the car at the end of the day. I was like, what just happened? And so I went on to compete at nationals, which was an experience for sure, against roughly 49 other collegiate discussion meet winners from across the nation for their collegiate farm bureau or collegiate discussion meet, excuse me. And from there I went on to compete in that contest. It was a part of a conference, went with some farm bureau leaders from Texas, and just really connected and have stayed connected with them. And then they're, encouraged me to get involved in my county farm bureau, go back to A&M, got involved in Brazos County Farm Bureau. They were kind enough to invite me to sit on the board, serve as a Young Farmer and Rancher chair for that county. And one thing kind of led to another, and now I'm on staff. But the short answer, no, I didn't do YLC, but I got involved at the collegiate level, and the rest is history.
So are there any programs or success stories you're especially proud of when it comes to young people engaging with agriculture that you've seen through your time at Texas Farm Bureau?
Yes. Collegiate Farm Bureau has been a undertaking. It's a fairly new program in Texas. Other states have been doing it for quite some time, and it had started right before COVID under my predecessor, Mia Balco, and was visioned by her and Whit. And then I was tasked with, okay, we've got some pilot chapters that are kind of doing okay, but we need to, get it ramped up because again, pipeline, we have students in youth programs. There's this kind of weird gap when they're in college, and then get involved in Young Farmer and Rancher programs, 18 to 35 year olds, county boards, go on state level leadership, etc. And so we have grown from 3 chapters to 8 in 2 years. And there's the potential to be at a total of 38 JUCOs, community colleges, universities in Texas that have degrees in agriculture. Right now we are at WT, Midwestern State University, Texas Tech University, Tarleton State, SFA, NAC, Huntsville, Bearcat Collegiate Farm Bureau, Texas A&M Collegiate Farm Bureau, and A&M Kingsville Collegiate Farm Bureau. And then working on a couple of others at this time as well. That's been really rewarding because nothing ever works when someone goes in and says, this is what we're going to do and this is why you need to do it. Not going to happen anywhere, much less a university. But having faculty members, staff, students that had been involved in student success series come to me and say, we want to start Collegiate Farm Bureau at A&M or Tech or wherever it was. And then watch them walk through that process of becoming a student organization and be excited about agriculture and come to annual meeting for Farm Bureau and be excited about sharing with our membership what they're doing on their college campus. They came one time and they were like, McKenna, we want to do a quiz bowl competition. I'm like, all right, we can do a quiz bowl competition. And next year we did a quiz bowl competition. And so watching them be excited and they're battling it out and they're frustrated with each other, but they're also happy with each other because they made it to the next round, but they missed a question and all these things. That's really rewarding to see them be excited about learning information about agriculture and having fun with each other and doing cool things on their college campuses with each other. There's also been a lot of really cool God moments, like the advisor at A&M, Robert Sturdivant. Y'all might know him. We did not know who in the world would be the advisor at A&M because all those faculty have so much on their plate with research and other student orgs, et cetera. And we were like, this needs to be a university or a college level organization. It doesn't need to be within a department. Who in the world do we come up with? And Joshua Jones, who's one of the first kids I had go through student success series when I was on staff, was like, well, there's this guy, Robert Sturdivant. He said he would do it. I talked to him and I was like, okay. So I call Robert up, hey, here you're willing to be an advisor. And like, he's one of my really good friends now. And it has truly been a God thing that he's been the one that's been involved in that organization and is the advisor, because he works under Dr. Skaggs in the dean's office. Mm-hmm. We have the support of the vice chancellor and dean through, you know, his connections as a staff member in that office. And it couldn't have happened any other way at A&M, in my opinion. And so that's been really fruitful. That same student, Joshua Jones, is getting married in December. And so I got invited to his wedding, and I'm like, that's so sweet. Like, stop. I'm too young, I think, to have kids that are getting married. But just like, not only the things within agriculture, but just like, these are the people that you end up doing life with. Mm-hmm. And that has been really sweet to see these students grow in life and in agriculture, and see them, you know, as my colleagues too. Some of them have graduated and have started working, and so getting to work with them and do cool things with them is really, really fun.
That's really cool. So what would you say is the coolest thing you've ever done, or an opportunity that you had through your time in agriculture or even with Texas Farm Bureau?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, and this is like not the coolest thing I've done in agriculture, but a cool thing that I wouldn't have done if I wasn't on staff with Farm Bureau. Every year, my colleague Laramie Adams, who is our Associate Director for Government Affairs, specifically within national legislative matters. So he is the lobbyist that's in DC, working with the Texas delegation and other members across the U.S. on issues in agriculture, whether that's Farm Bill, et cetera. He and I get to take 6 of our high school seniors who go through Thrive, do a contest, and are the top 6 for a contest each year to DC. And a lot of the times it's these students' first time to go to DC if they didn't go on like their 8th grade field trip or on a vacation with their family. And it's also a little bit different than those trips because it's like a VIP. Like, we've got private buses and we're going on cool tours, etc. This year, we were really fortunate to have Representative Moran from East Texas take us on a night tour of the Capitol. So like, no one else is there. It's just you, your representative, and like his group or her group of people that have been invited to go on this tour. So we start, and he takes us in onto the House floor, and we're like sitting in the chairs that they sit in when they like vote and discuss things that they do in DC. And so that was cool, right? And he's like showing us all these cool details. And then he takes us out, and earlier in the day we had talked to Representative it was either, I'm saying Balbina, but she's at A&M. I can't remember her name. But she had told one of the kids, she was like, on your night tour tonight, ask Representative Moran about the Lincoln Room and the secret trap door in the Lincoln Room. And so this kid's like, all right, doing that. So he bebops up to Representative Moran when he like finally has a second. And he's like, Representative Moran, I was told to ask you about the trap door in the Lincoln Room. And he's like, y'all stick around. Like, let everyone leave the Capitol when we're done with our tour. You stick around, and we'll take care of that. And we're like, okay. So it's like 10:30 at night at this point, and so we're like, all right. And they're like, do we want to stay? And I'm like, y'all do whatever you want. Like, this is your trip. Like, yeah. So we stay. So, and a couple other people from his tour came or stayed too. He's like, all right, guys, we can only do this with a small group. So thanks for staying. Thanks for waiting for all these people to leave. He's like, let's go. So he takes us to Statuary Hall, which is the old Senate room, and it has statues. Each state gets 2 statues that can be in the Capitol to, you know, homage to the state. By the way, ours are Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston, if you didn't know. Anyway, so we go in there, and then there's like this door, and he's got like a code. So he puts in the code, and he like takes us back there. This is the room that like Lincoln would go and hang out in between doing all the politicky things that one has to do early in those days in DC. And so he's like, this is where Lincoln was. And he's like, okay. And we like go back to this little tiny like turret area, like a castle. It's like shaped, it's like smaller than this table area. And he takes us back there, and there's like stairway behind us. There's like someone's random desk behind us. And then there's like a table and a chair, and then like a window. And he's like, all right, you right there that you're standing, like scoot like a foot to your left. And then there's this like, and he like lifts up this piece of carpet. He's like, all right, this is trapdoor. This is where the British invaded the Capitol to burn it down in like the 1800s or whatever. You're like, they came up this stairway, and that's how they got into the Capitol building. He's like, you can go down there if you want. What? So the kids, of course, are like, yeah, let's go. And he like hands him a Sharpie. He's like, you can sign the wall. Like, okay. I wasn't going to go down there, but they finally convinced me, and I was like, okay, yeah, probably like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I should probably do this. Laramie, my colleague who has lived and worked and been around in DC for like 20 years, had never seen this place, never been in this room, never like seen this trapdoor situation. And so he's like, we're going down there. And I'm like, all right, we're going down there. So we like go down there, you're like ducking, it's really cold, and there's like signatures everywhere. So like obviously other people have been here, and we're just like signing the wall. And we're like, Laramie, my colleague, she's like signing in like 5 places. And it was just really cool. So that's probably like the coolest thing that I've gotten to do because of my job. The coolest thing I've gotten to do related to agriculture would probably have to be interning in the House Committee on Agriculture. Like I said, I did it. I had graduated from A&M in December, needed to fill this awkward spring semester because like no one's going to hire you over Christmas to do anything, and then start my master's in August the following year. So did that. It was the spring that COVID happened, so we ended up getting sent home. But the 3-ish months that we were there, working for a committee is really cool because you don't have to answer angry phone calls from constituents. You get to like research things that are happening. I got to be the photographer for Secretary Sonny Perdue's testimony before the full House Committee on Agriculture. Do like briefs. I archived things from the Clinton impeachment trial to go to the archives to get them out of our office space. Just like random things, like intern things, but cool things. And then when we were there as well was when the Trump impeachment trial was going on. And so they let us go and sit in on the Senate like observation area and watch those proceedings, like to say that we were there for like,
Wow.
yeah, cool. To say that we were there and like watch them like going through everything that we saw on TV for that was really cool. I mean, not cool that it was happening, but cool we got to see history. And so, yeah, that's probably the coolest thing I've done is agriculture is intern for the House Committee on Ag. But yeah, lots of cool opportunities have happened.
Oh, those are both really cool. I've never been to the secret trapdoor. So, do you have any tips for building relationships and informing the general public who may not be familiar with ag issues?
I think first and foremost, it's all about finding common ground. And I think that starts with asking questions. So whether that's like, do you like Diet Coke? Okay, I like Diet Coke too. Do you like True Lime in your Diet Coke? Yeah? Okay, great. Like, bam, connection, right? And then you can have a conversation of like, oh, did you know that corn makes high fructose corn? Like, it could be a discussion about facts and like, did you knows? Or it can be like, how do you feel about this? And, oh, like, I feel the same or I feel differently. And just like opening up the floor for that conversation. I think we always have to, the focus needs to be on finding middle ground and staying focused on what we do agree on, and the discussion of how do we address the situation if we disagree can be more fruitful if we establish that common ground and shared vision for whatever it may be.
So, how does Texas Farm Bureau use social media and storytelling to reach a broader audience?
Yeah, so we have a really fantastic communications team that works on all of our written publications and our social media. We have a fantastic video team that puts together some really great feature pieces on folks in agriculture in Texas, whether that's crawfish or cattle operations that also do concrete, feed bunkers, and everything in between. They have seen and featured it all. And so really just providing a platform for agriculturalists' voice to be heard and for people to put a face with the name. Some of y'all might have seen the videos that we were playing at our booth at FFA convention. We had like a spinach farmer and a crawfish farmer, hydroponics, and I think there were some ag teachers that knew one of the gals that is a spinach producer. She's working with her dad now because they were like stopping and taking a picture. And it's like, oh, connecting the dots. Like, we know these people. They are the ones that are producing our food, fiber, and fuel. Like, it's not someone we don't know. It's people that are in our communities, on our school boards, on our county farm bureau boards, on the city commissioner's court, our county judge. You know, name a leader in your area and probably one of them has a connection to an agriculture operation or is the operator themselves. And so just helping people make those connections, our communications team does a really great job of. And I think, again, we can leverage social media, and Texas Farm Bureau does a good job of leveraging social media to make our members' voices heard when it comes to policy issues like the Farm Bill or needing disaster recovery assistance because of flooding or fires, and et cetera. And I think AFBF does the same in encouraging other state farm bureaus to do that. And then also giving those state farm bureaus a platform in DC, whether it's presidents coming and meeting with the Secretary of Agriculture, other congressional members, et cetera, to take care of things on that side as well.
So what do you think the most rewarding part of your career has been so far?
Good question, because I'm not very far into it. I'm going on my 4th year. I went straight through school and then into this position. I think the most rewarding part is getting to see the light bulb moments for the kids when they come to programs, or seeing them multiple times, like having kids go through Student Success Series and then they started Collegiate Farm Bureau and now they're, an officer for Collegiate Farm Bureau doing Quiz Bowl, or they've graduated from a Collegiate Farm Bureau program and they're on a county board. Or like I said, they're now my colleague working for another association or agricultural entity that we partner with. Has probably been the most rewarding part is watching them grow and learn and become their own young adults.
Mm-hmm. So have there been any mentors or role models in your life that has shaped your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. My life role model is definitely my mom. Obviously I mentioned I have a stepdad. My parents divorced when they separated in 3rd grade. Divorce happened later, but my mom definitely really taught me that God sees, God hears, God cares. Things weren't always peachy keen and rainbows and sunshine, but my mom always made sure that we had everything that we needed and let us do whatever we wanted to do, whether that was FFA or sports, etc. And so she's certainly my life role model of man, that's the definition of sacrifice, and providing your kids every opportunity that you can. And I hope to be half the mom that she is. Within agriculture, definitely my ag teacher, Jet Mason, Jeff Closey, Darcy Roberts. Miss Roberts is at Spearman now. Closey's still at Canyon. And then Mason is left teaching, but still works in agriculture with United Supermarkets in the Lubbock area. But Mason was kind of my ag teacher. You kind of attach to one, and I definitely attached to him, and he really pushed me and encouraged me and developed me to be able to do things like Ford Scholars and make state in senior creed speaking, and be a leader in our chapter and in our district and area associations. And they also just really encouraged me to find what I wanted to do in agriculture. And whether that was teaching ag or doing ag comm or doing something else, just really providing every opportunity for me to explore what it is that I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Whit too, my boss now, like I mentioned, I got to meet him first in college, and I always say too, you never know who might become your boss one day. Any interaction with an adult can potentially be a job interview or impact their viewpoint of you if you do apply for a job with them. But Whit has been an incredible mentor to me through college, and now as my leadership. And then I also got a shout out Jordan Bartles and Carson Reed. They're colleagues of mine in our division. Jordan is a couple years ahead of me in life and at Farm Bureau. And so she's kind of teaches me a lot about life. She has a toddler and she is about to welcome a second kiddo. And so as I look forward to that part of my life, how can I balance my job and kids and having a family, but also the Farm Bureau things as well. And then Carson joined a month before I did, but just watching her grow under Whit and Jordan's leadership and what they've been able to grow and accomplish within educational outreach, that's their area of expertise, is just incredible. And so all of those people are people that have been incredible mentors to me and really invested in me.
So what are some of the big goals or projects that you're working or Texas Farm Bureau is working on right now?
Yeah. So I won't speak to Farm Bureau as a whole because I only focus on our organizational program areas. I don't want to speak to like policy matters or membership matters because I don't have the most up-to-date information on that. But organizationally, Collegiate Farm Bureau continues to be a priority of mine within my program area, continuing to grow the number of chapters that we have, the number of opportunities for those chapters. We are doing 2 regional meetings for our Collegiate Farm Bureaus this year in the fall. And so they'll have an opportunity to come together in the north and in the south. And they chose what they want to do and what they want to focus on in kind of a day and a half type convention seminar situation. In the north, we're focusing on ag law because a lot of them were like, we're interested in becoming ag lawyers, but we don't really have a way to explore that, nor do we really know what that means. And so we're having it at Texas Tech Law School. We're bringing in professors, practicing lawyers in the area. We're meeting with the commodity associations and groups that are headquartered in Lubbock, like National Sorghum and Texas Corn, and cotton producers, et cetera, for them to really learn and explore what that may look like for them. In the South, we're going to be in Huntsville at Gibbs Ranch, which is a part of Sam Houston State University's campus, exploring beef quality assurance, ag mechanics, small engines. And then they also want to discuss collegiate discussion meet and quiz bowl, how they can better prepare, because a lot of the chapters in the South are the newer ones. And so they're like, how do we even get a quiz bowl team together? Or like, what is discussion meet? And so we're kind of focusing on that area for them. They wanted to focus on cattle production and ag mech as well, because they have a lot of students that are interested in ag mech, but there's not really an opportunity to major in ag mech. And so how they can continue to expand their skills and understand job opportunities once they graduate as related to that area. So that's something that is new this year that we're working on. And then for student programming, we recently increased our scholarship dollars from $250,000 to $500,000. And so that was something that was really important to our state board of directors to continue to provide the level of support to encourage youth to come back to the agriculture industry and be able to have the financial means to do so. So that was something that happened not this past year, but the year before, that they increased. We have added a new grant program, the AgMech grant program. It's in its second year this year, to help support AgMech programs, to have the materials and machinery, equipment to teach in the classroom. I think something that's on the horizon that both I and my colleagues in Ed Outreach are wanting to learn more about and interested to see the implications related to our programs is funding in the school system and what that looks like with the recent passages of bills where, no phones or Apple Watches, iPads that aren't school devices, funding both at the state and the federal level with the recent Trump administration directive to withhold funding from the Department of Education, and just what that means for students' involvement and teachers' involvement in our programming. It could make it more popular because it's all free. Teachers can access the curriculum matrix for free. Students can come to Student Success Series for free. It could also be detrimental because schools may say, we can't afford to send you and your kiddos to Student Success Series programs during the school day or school week, or we can't let you go to this PD even though it's free because of travel costs. So very interested to see this upcoming school year how that all shakes out for us, but we'll be interested to learn.
Yeah. So speaking of the ag grants, our school actually got one of those.
Oh,
so I
awesome.
thought that was really cool.
Yes.
And then can you tell me a little bit more about the quiz bowl? Like, is it similar to FFA quiz bowl, or how does that work?
Great question. We leaned heavily on our friends at Texas 4-H and their quiz bowl format to develop the Collegiate Farm Bureau quiz bowl. And so it is very similar to those guidelines in terms of like toss-up questions and how we formatted everything. Our question bank, however, is quite different. We pull from extension resources, our resources, etc., and it's really just general ag. So we try to have questions in kind of almost every category that you could think of, whether that's ag mech, beef, pork, sheep and goat, like all of the things. And then we even have a section on like Texas facts, like what is the Texas state bird and our state nut or tree or whatever it may be. And so it's meant to be fun, but also encourage them to utilize the knowledge that they're learning in their coursework and also expand their horizons outside of areas that they're focused in. It was also really cool to see a lot of teams strategize, like, okay, we've got like a plant and soil science person, we've got an animal science person, we've got an ag mech person on the team to kind of cover all of their bases, because we were all learning last year. So I'm really interested to see this year how they come prepared now that they've been through one of the contests. They've seen the type of questions that we have, that kind of thing. And so I'm sure they'll be better prepared this year. But we're working on writing more questions right now because we had some that came into the finals undefeated, some tie. We had to go to extra questions to break ties. So it'll be really fun to see this December how things stack up and how prepared they are.
Where do you see the future of Texas Farm Bureau heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Future of Farm Bureau in 5 to 10 years. Our membership population is probably higher in age than the average farmer. So the average farmer's age, I think, is 56. Our average membership age that is really involved, you know, as a county farm bureau board member, et cetera, is probably 70s. So we're going to have a lot of folks stepping down from leadership in the next 5 to 10 years. Whether that's them choosing to step down, they pass away, whatever it may be. And there's going to be some big gaps to fill. And going back to your question about why is it important for youth to get involved, that's why. If our organization is going to continue to exist, we need people that understand agriculture, are a part of agriculture, to help fill those gaps. We're starting to see that transitional period. Folks that are currently in those leadership roles know that they're not going to be around forever, and they're trying to find ways and are finding ways to bring youth into the fold, if you will. A really great example of that in some of our counties, and more counties are implementing this program this year, is a county youth ambassador program. And that's where they have a, 1, 2, 3 4-H FFA members serve as ex officios on the County Farm Bureau board. So y'all get to attend meetings and hear about the issues firsthand that these folks are experiencing on their operations, all the Farm Bureau information, upcoming events, get to go to the statewide events like Summer Commodity Conference, annual meeting with that county board. But also you get to be mentored and learn from that board how to operate things in the future when one day you're the leader. I always tell the high school students I work with and the collegiate students I work with that I'm looking at the next state directors. I'm looking at the next County Farm Bureau board members. You're going to be my boss. So I hope that you walk away with a good understanding of what it is we do here and why we do it and why agriculture is important, because I want to work for you one day. I want this organization to still exist. And I think broadly, that's the biggest change that I personally see coming to Farm Bureau, and how I already see our county leaders and executive leadership bringing younger folks into the fold.
So now we have a fun little quick fire round for you. So what's your favorite grade to work with?
Seniors or college students?
Beach or mountains?
Also really hard. Can I have the mountains at the beach?
Sure.
Okay.
The Speak Out for Agriculture or Student Success Series?
Student Success Series. Love SOFA, but Student Success.
Goats or sheep?
Sheep.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right, now it's time for the Barnyard Banter Ag Report.
So as we hit late October here in Central Texas, fall planting is in full swing across the region. Winter wheat is going in the ground now, a key crop for grazing and grain in this part of the state. Some growers are planting early to take advantage of cooler temperatures through dry conditions. Those dry conditions in some areas are slowing progress. In the vegetable fields, it's prime time for cool season crops like spinach, lettuce, carrots, broccoli, and cabbage. These crops thrive in the mild fall weathers, and farmers are hoping for steady conditions to carry them into strong early winter harvests. Cover crops are also being seeded on some acres, mainly rye, oats, and clovers, to help with soil health and erosion control ahead of spring planting. So whether it's wheat for cattle or carrots for the market, Texas fields are busy right now, putting fall's cooler days to work.
All right, looking ahead, Payne, how can our listeners get involved and even suggest topics they want to hear?
So if you want to get involved with the Barnyard Banter podcast, you can find us on Spotify or YouTube at Barnyard Banter Podcast. Or if you want to request different topics or potential guests you would like to see, you can message us on our Instagram page at barnyard.banter.podcast, linked below.
All right, Mckenna, what is some advice you would give to someone who is interested in a career in agriculture or even with Texas Farm Bureau?
Yeah, I have recently started really encouraging students to take any opportunity to job shadow, intern, whether it's paid or unpaid, webinars, LinkedIn, just gather all the information that you can. Look at different position descriptions for jobs that you're interested in. Really understand, like, what are the skills that I need to effectively do this job and do this work. And then from there, that can help shape, like, oh, like for my electives, I want to take these because it's going to help prepare me for this type of job. Or I would say an internship or externship or job shadowing opportunity is a really great way to learn what you don't want to do. And if you learn what you don't want to do, you narrow down what you do want to do. And then it's also never a bad thing to get into a job and not like it. I mean, stick it out for a year. And then you know that that's not what you want to do. I've had many a friend make huge career shifts in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years that they're out in the workforce as they try and find what it is that they want to do, whether that's in agriculture, outside of agriculture, coming to agriculture, away from agriculture, whatever it may be. So just take every opportunity to learn from folks, whether that's a podcast, YouTube. There's a lot of great ways to learn about jobs and about people and about what they do, why they do it, how they do it. And then you can use that information to kind of create your roadmap to your perfect position.
Okay. So how can our listeners connect with you or contact you if they have any more questions or want to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my email is mbush, B-U-S-H, at TXFB, so like Texas Farm Bureau, .org. I'm very responsive on emails. If I don't immediately get back with you, it's because I'm facilitating a program or at a conference or something. So that's a really great way to get a hold of me. I know that y'all probably don't love email, but I didn't love email either, but now I'm I know why people were telling me to send them an email, because then it's there. I can keep it there. I can flag it and I can get back to it. Instagram, like I mentioned earlier, I'm really starting to share a lot more on there, interact with a lot of students on there. Some of them DM, ask me questions like, hey, am I signed up for this program? Or how do I get signed up for this program? I'm chronically online, so for good or for bad. So Bush Mckenna is a great place to keep up. I also assault y'all with information about Student Success Series, SOFA, all the things. So it's a great way to keep up to date with, okay, what is open for registration, what's closing soon, all that good stuff. So yeah, those are the best ways to keep up with me.
That's great. So thanks for coming on our podcast today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
We are excited about our upcoming episodes coming out on the first and third Mondays of every month.
On the next podcast, we will be venturing into a local agritourism spot.
Peace, love, ag.